Welcome back all my aspiring pattern makers and my future fashion designers. In this sewing game, we all did not start out learning how to make patterns first. Some of us started the sewing game by first learning how to cut freehand. In most cases, you will use a tailor's chalk to make the lines or curves on the fabric before cutting it out. That's all good. But if the fabric is crowded with lots of pattern or design going on, you might not be able to see the tailor's chalk. However, if you use a paper and place those marks and lines on that paper, then you will have a pattern that you can go back to occasionally to make the same outfit again or to tweak it and to create a different outfit. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make the pattern for this draped bubble skirt and this trendy off-the-shoulder blouse. In order to make the pattern for this draped bubble skirt, we have to plan accordingly. If our desired length is 39 inches, then we need to add 4 inches to that desired length for the turn up, and that will bring you to 43 inches. And then you'll also have your seam allowance there, which is 1/2 inch, and that's for the outer fabric. In terms of the lining, because you have that 39 and you have that 4 inches that you are turning up, so you're going to do 39 minus the 4 inches, that's the turn up, so that will give you 35, and then plus the 1/2 inch seam allowance there, and you have to add your 1/2 inch seam allowance here also, so that will bring you to 43.5 inches. Now also at the waist you will have 1/2 inch seam allowance, so you have to add that 1/2 inch seam allowance also. That will give you 36 inches in length. Add your 1/2 inch at the top, which will give you 44 inches here. So you will need a rectangle that's going to be 44 inches coming down in the length, times on the fold you need 21.5 inch. And some fabric have the holes along the edge, and this is a prime example here. This is a fabric that you will notice that there are holes along the edge for at least 1/2 inch in. So because you have that, so in actuality the fabric is not 45 inches wide that you're going to need to cut, because of that 1 inch difference. It's actually going to be 44. So half of that is going to give you 22 inches. So what you need to do, you have your 44 times your 21.5 for your rectangle, and you add in your 1/2 inch seam allowance here, so you make that 22 inches across. All you need to get started is your pattern paper. And so because you have your pattern paper, your desired length is 39, so you're going to make a rectangle, and that rectangle is going to be 44 inches long by 22 inches across. And this is what you're going to have for your pattern. This is the skirt. So you will need 2 pieces of fabric, the 44 inches length, and then to get the lining now, you are going to simply create the lining, coming down, marking off your 36 inches from the top to the bottom, create another rectangle, or what you can do, you can measure from the top to where the 36 inches would be, and then you're going to draw 2 lines like what you see here, and that would be your lining. Then all you have to do is place another piece of paper over this and just simply trace out up to that mark, and that would be for your lining. So this is your skirt lining right here, right? And you need this to be on the fold also, so you can write on the fold. So this, you need 1 piece on the fold, cut 1 piece, and then for the actual skirt you need 2 pieces cut on the fold. For the waistband you will need an extra piece of rectangle because you're going to gather the waist area there. If your waist is 29 inches, you need to add 1.5 inches to that 29 inches, so you will have 30.5 inches there. From the 1.5 inch, you will have 1 inch for your lap under where you will have your hook and eye. And with that rectangle, because it's a waistband, we usually finish our waistband 1.25 inches. So you need twice 1.25 inches, which would be 2.5 inches, and then add 1/2 inch seam allowance on either side. So your rectangle should be your waist measurement plus 1.5 inches, right, times 3.5 inches wide. Because when you finish, as I stated, your waistband should be 1.25 inches. And that's your 3 pattern pieces that you will need for your bubble skirt. I must say to you that some bubble skirts have, say, 4 inch of turn up, and then the lining will be joined to that. Sometimes if you want a more pronounced bubble, you can literally do 2 inches of turn up, because you're going to gather the end of the fabric onto the lining, and the lining width is going to be narrower than that of the actual skirt. So if you want a more pronounced bubble, then you go a shorter distance with your turn up. I would not recommend you turning up more than 6 inches, because then your bubble skirt is going to look flat. So stick to somewhere between 2 to maximum, I would say, 5 inches. But do note, if you want a more pronounced bubble, then you would make it a shorter turn up, and also make sure that when you're attaching the lining to the actual skirt for the turn up, the actual skirt is going to be at least twice the width of the lining. Or you can go up to as much as, say, 3 times. That is fine, because the more gathers you have on that skirt at the end, is the more you will see the bubble effect on the skirt. And as another additional bonus, you can actually make your bubble skirt using a 60-inch wide fabric, because the wider the fabric is, the more you can have more of that bubble taking place. If you have it a 45 and you're making the skirt very long, just remember that you will need room for movement at the hem, and the narrower it is for that outfit or that skirt at the hem, you're not going to be able to move freely. I would recommend you using a 60-inch wide fabric as opposed to a 45-inch wide fabric. And for this skirt, I must say to you that you can wear it as this, with some of the fabric being pulled up, or you can have it let down on both sides. Okay, so you can do that, and I will show you. You can pin it with a safety pin, or you can simply have it where it is all let down. So as you can see, this is what it looks like. Okay, and you have the turn up piece, because this will be the fold, and you have your lining here. And if you notice that you have gathers going on around the width to create that bubble effect that you need. So this is what this skirt looks like. Now this fabric that I used was 45 inches wide. You don't have to use a 45 inches wide. You can use a fabric that is going to be, say, 60 inches wide. And the 60 inches width fabric is going to give you much more gathers and much more bubble at the end. So it's all up to you. So this is actually a silk charmeuse fabric. I have my invisible zipper on the side, and I have my skirt hook and eye here. These are the best, right? And you use that to close that. Now, when wearing this dress, as I stated before, you can have it where you can wear it just tall enough, like that, with the end, and you see the bubble, but you won't see much. Or you can do it where you can have it come up. You can pull it up like that. And when you're doing that, make sure that you are grabbing the lining, right? And also the fabric. You're going to bring it like this, and you're going to choose a designated spot on your garment. And I'm going to choose it to be about here, close to the waist, almost at the waist, and you can pin it from here, from the back. But make sure when you are pinning it, you're not going to see the pin showing through on the outside. So that is very important. Now let's work on the pattern piece for the blouse. And this is what the blouse looks like. It's going to be an off the shoulder, so you are going to wear it off the shoulder. I created a little bit of gathering effect here with the elastic, right? I wanted that at the top, right on your arm, and elastic at the wrist. And I also put elastic at the waist. So let's plan accordingly. Finished length here is the 19.5 inches. Consider the turn up. You need at least 1 inch for the turn up, because I use 3/4 inch elastic. So you can consider, say, the turn up 1 inch or 1.5 inches, and then you have the end piece. So let's get started with creating the pattern. So this blouse is pretty simple. When you have this on paper, you can always go back, as I stated before, and just grab this pattern. You don't have to go back and mark out and freehand and do all of that stuff. This is one of the reasons why I was prompted to attend FIT to learn how to make patterns, because I used to watch my mom making the outfit, and she's always, every outfit, she's just going freehand again and cut it. A skirt is simple to cut freehand, like say the bubble skirt, because it's just simply, you know, cutting a rectangle piece of fabric. But when you get into more intricate designs such as dresses and something that is going to contour you and blouses, it is good to just create a pattern. You can always go back to that pattern, make another outfit using a different color or using print, and it makes your life much easier. So here we go. Let's get started with making this pattern now. Create a perpendicular line here, 19.5 inches. So make sure your L square is lining up properly. Okay, and you can mark your 19.5 inches up here. And then you can create another perpendicular line here going across. And you can use the inner side of your L square. You don't necessarily always have to use the outer part. Okay, just letting you know that. So I have this, and I'm going to continue my line all the way down. Okay. And go all the way down. You come back, you will complete this line. This is going to be your center front on the fold of the fabric. I'm just stating that from now, and you can create a mark for that. The next thing you need to do is measure your shoulder circumference, right? And you want to do that to make sure that you are getting an accurate measurement and where to place your first mark for the shoulder. So for me, my shoulder circumference, I got 35, but I don't want to use 35. I'm going to go in an inch and use 34, right? Because one is going to be on the shoulder and you don't want it to fall off. So that's why I'm going in a little bit. So you have the 34. This is going to be the top, all right, of your blouse. This is the top. 34 divided by 2 is 17. And when you further divide that by 2, you're going to get 8.5. So you need 8.5 on here. And that 8.5 is going to be your mark where you're going to have the opening for your neck, for it to, not really neck, but your shoulder opening, because you can have one on the shoulder, one off the shoulder. Next, you can decide how long you want it from your center back to your sleeve. You can determine that I'm going just to 32. So I need to mark 32 inches on here. So I have my 32 right here. Okay, and it's up to you. If you want to do 3/4, it's fine. If you want to come in between here, you can do that also. So you create a perpendicular line to this mark. And you can use the inner if you are not able to see the outer lines. That's your perpendicular line. Now, what you're going to do, I like to drop this about 1 inch down at the end. All right. And you can drop it there and taper to nothing up here, which is about, say, 7 inches or so. You can taper it to nothing. You can do that, or if you want to go closer, so about here. All right, I'm going to taper it to nothing. I'm going to just reshape this line here. But it's fine if you want to make it square. No, hard feeling if you make it square. Now, I must add my 3/4 of an inch, or you can add 1 inch for your elastic. You can do that. And then I want my desired width here to be 10 inches is fine. All right, mark 10 inches there. So with this 10 inches, I'm going to create a perpendicular line. It's going to go like this. And let's get the width. If your bust is between, say, 34 and 36, then the minimum you want to go to give that effect for this blouse is going, say, 40, because you're going to have the elastic here. But if you want to go more than 40 to have more elastic at the waist area, which would be good because you have to think of the ratio of the waist with the elastic and what you're trying to achieve. So I can go up to not 10 inches across, but make it 12 inches. And when I make it 12 inches, that will give me a total of 12 by 4 is going to be 48. So I can go 12 inches here. If I go to 12 inches, I create a perpendicular line. And this is the reason why I love this ruler, because I can create my perpendicular line with this ruler. All right. And you go up for about, I'll say, 5 inches. And then you can start shaping it. So once you get that, then you're good. All right. You can start shape it out. All right. Just curve it like that. That's fine. You can put a notch here for when you are joining the fabric, use that as your guide. You can do that also. Okay. And you can keep this as a notch also. Then you must add your 1.5 inches or 1.25 inches for your turn under for your elastic. Okay. So you can do that. And here it is. What I did on this top, I created, as I showed you before, the elastic here. So on this top, I had the elastic to create that gather effect. And I want 3 inches, but you're going to go in 1 inch from where the opening is. Put another notch there. All right. And then this is going to be a space. And then because it's 3 inches, I'm going to gather it to, I'm going to make this here 6 inches down, which is right here. Good job. And I'm going to put a notch here. And you're going to use that as your guide to gather between this up to 3 inches. You can do more, but 3 inches is a good amount for a good distribution of the look when the elastic pulls it up. So now you have this. All you have to do is add your seam allowance all around the edge here. So 1/2 inch seam allowance is good. If you need help on how to sew this outfit or any off the shoulder blouse, you can go back and watch my video on that. And that video will help you as a guide with your sewing. And you will also have your 1/2 inch seam allowance added at the top here. Or you can do actually 3/4 of an inch, because if you do 1/2 inch, that is too tiny. So I say do 3/4 of an inch here, because you're going to turn under the fabric twice to clean finish up to this point. All right. So just remember that and be mindful of that. If you are doing this end part, since you taper that, what you also need to do is that you're going to fold the fabric right here. So let's cut this first. If you cut this, all you have to do is fold this back right here. Once you fold it back like this, you already have this squared. So once you fold it back, then you need to reshape this like that, because you're going to have gathers there. All right, and if you don't do that, what is going to happen is that when you turn this under, and if you turn it under like this for your elastic halfway, make sure that you reshape it so that you get that line. And that is very crucial. It is very important. And you can actually cut it with it like this. So cut it like that. Yep. And that when you open out, see, you will have that. It has a sink here and it goes back out. So that is very important. This is the gathers or elastic you're going to place right here, right? And this is what the pattern piece for that blouse looks like. You don't need anything else. You just need to measure right here. Whatever measurement you get at your wrist, use that as your measurement to cut the elastic, because when you join the elastic, then that is taking up about 1/4 of an inch or almost 1/2 an inch, and that will give you room for it to sit there at your wrist and not be too tight. And for the waist now, you're going to just measure your waist measurement, and whatever you get for your waist measurement minus 1/2 an inch, or actually cut the elastic that amount, and then when you join it, you are taking off almost an inch by joining it, and that should be fine. It won't be tight around your waist. So let's cut this out. So this is your final piece, your pattern piece, and you need this unfold, and you need 2 pieces, right? So times 2 fabric unfold. And if you don't want to have this to your wrist, you can make it shorter. You can determine whether you want to make it up to here, whether elbow length or mid elbow. You can determine that. But this is what your pattern piece look like. So in conclusion, now that you know how to pattern for this draped bubble skirt, also this off the shoulder top, I hope that you will give it a shot and create the pattern. It is not a hard pattern to create. As you can see, it's all about creating rectangles and then using that rectangle. Except for the blouse, you are going to curve out the armhole area, and that is fine. So don't just watch this video. Give it a shot and try this on your own and create an outfit like this and wear it well. You can also wear it in the fall, and you can make the arm length shorter and wear it in the summertime, and you can go out and rock. With that being said, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you like what you see, hit the like button. And while you're at it, don't keep this video to yourself. Share it with others around the world so they too can create an outfit like this and wear it well. Thank you for watching, and see you soon on the next video to come. Bye now.